No, it's not working yet.
She's lying.
Okay, now you're live.
See? I had to fix the camera. I had to fix that. Because she'll know what she's doing.
Oh, yeah.
I hear you.
To be read at every meeting, caveat emptor. Moors are men, upright, independent, and fearless, who care for their loved ones and follow the prophet to a destiny which is not uncertain nor unknown. They are fortified by the impregnable doctrine built upon love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. It is therefore folly at its greatest height for smelly culprits with their insidious plans to invade such realm. They try, but their own bad planning brings down wrath upon their heads, like the sword old Damocles had. Intrigue and scurrilous cunnings find a difficult path to travel within the ranks of the Moors. This is so because the Moorish movement has been well planned by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, whose latent powers are abundant, unknown, and may be called into action as a matter of defense at any moment. Prophet Noble Drew Ali knows the people within his ranks who are interested. They are the vanguard of the movement as the Moorish hordes increase here in America. All of the Moors are active, not passive. A member's interest can only be in one direction, and having traveled over the road years before, the prophet knows where every member is along the road. A few feet below is another road where schemers work, where traders grin and culprits bask in the sun. They think they're on the same road with true Moors, but the Moors are high above on the pinnacle where they might view the destructionists as they fall for the last time and their bones bleach in the sultry midday sun. Hungry scavengers flying high catch scent, devour, and leave crying out, caveat emptor, cast out the dead carcass. The Moors high above see these plotters, purveyors, the worst that exist, hurl themselves downward by their own works as the hawks wait to be proclaimed at every meeting. Islam. I'm glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that pay their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy. Because of my fame and nobility, the nations of the world will not recognize the movement, without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Islam. This is the instruction from your prophet Noble Drew Ali. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds, that you sow in the flesh. Allah is one that judges the world, and his judgment is now on. But the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near. So says Allah to his divine prophet, I, Noble Drew Ali. And that's why many hearts have been turned to stone, and many have eyes to see, but cannot see, ears to hear, but cannot hear. Least they would be confounded of their sins. These are the trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest. And the ones that speak against your divine and national princes of your temples act accordingly, and Allah will bless you. And Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace. Your divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Prophet warns all Muslims to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is the holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Drew Ali. If the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting the prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace. Noble Drew Ali.
Great. That's all this.
Yeah.
He was just testing you.
So,
I was reading that, I had an idea. Where is that? Never mind. The prophet said, the prophet said, Moors are men upright, independent, and fearless, who care for their loved ones and follow the prophet to a destiny which is not uncertain nor unknown. What is that destiny to you? Anyone?
Your dreams, goals, and aspirations.
Anyone else?
I would say being free, free from any type of oppression or anyone stopping you from life and liberty or pursuit of happiness.
Can you give me an example?
I would say that one of the biggest things today is driving or traveling. You have the right to travel freely, and for some reason, when you subject yourself to a corporation's, how do you say,
Jurisdiction.
jurisdiction, yeah, they're going to violate that right to travel freely and try to tax it
My bad.
and convert it into a privilege. So I
So
think
stopping that.
yeah, stopping that would be unconstitutional and unlawful.
Anyone else? The prophet said, Moors are men upright, independent, and fearless, who care for their loved ones and follow the prophet to a destiny which is not uncertain nor unknown. So I'm asking, where is that destiny, or what is that destiny to you?
Free national government.
What does that mean? Oh, you got something?
I was just gonna say, I guess for destiny, probably depends on who's, and everybody has the individual destiny. So whatever you feel is your destiny, then fulfill it.
Well, I think when he said that, he said Moors, meaning everyone.
We all have a
The
common
following-
goal.
Yeah, we all have our own destiny individually, but then collectively, there's a destiny. So that's what I'm asking, that collective destiny. You said free national government, what does that mean?
Meaning we don't have to go to anybody else for anything. We have our own municipal government set up.
Okay, so when you say don't go to anyone for anything, give me an example of
Excuse me.
what our people do, or who our people go to for, let's say, housing.
You go to European government, so-called de facto European government, and you apply for their assistance, which is just a trap to keep you within the system. Because everybody that I know who is on Section 8 has been on it for their whole entire lives. So,
Yes?
Or you go to their jobs to get their private money, to go to their private bank, to get their private loan, to get material that's sitting on your land, probably from your resources.
There's like a 99% chance it's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Remember when we was reading Black Soil Dictionary, it said anything that's built on the soil belongs to the soil.
Mhm.
The soil is ours. So if you put something here, it belongs to us.
Mhm.
That's why they should be paying these taxes. So, anyone else? Or anyone
Where?
that is found?
I said, and we're paying this tax.
Yeah, we're paying them for whatever it is. Well, I mean,
If she extend, we go limit our food,
Mhm.
clothing, pretty much everything that we use in our everyday accessibility, everything, paper towels, from everything that we feel that we need, we're getting it from somewhere else. Somebody else who doesn't either look like us, have our best
Common
interest,
Mhm.
common interest, or just our best interest for longevity for the future. They're thinking about theirs as they should.
Yeah.
But, we're the ones always
That's funny.
feeding off of the rest of the system. They feed off of us because there's more of us than we realize. We always think that we're the minority, but
A few things you just said brought this 10-minute video I'm about to play with Malcolm. He said the same thing. They should keep their own people's interests in mind, not
Right.
someone else's.
Right.
And then you said they're living off of us. The prophet said the same thing. They're living off our virtues.
Yeah.
We keep going to them and giving them energy. Our people don't realize that everything is energy. So whenever we go to these Europeans and ask them for something, we're still solidifying that position that they're in power. Some of us don't realize that.
Right.
Please.
Keys, hi Keys.
Please.
Good to see you.
Welcome.
Yeah, see you.
Keys, How you doing? Good to see you. What's your name?
You're going
I just nice to meet you. I'm Lisa. It's coming, man.
So, we're gonna watch one video on Municipal Government 101. It's about 10 minutes. Then we're gonna watch two 10-minute clips from El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, most commonly known as Malcolm X. Speaking about municipal government. So I'm not disrespecting the prophet by putting this up. I'm just covering it so we can watch the PowerPoint, the projector screen clearly. You tripping on video. People are thinking that. Like, oh,
You know-
it's dirty. Blah, blah.
They just mentioned that you had him up too.
He's gonna be a hologram. Nice shirt.
Thank you.
Well, that's not today. I apologize, Miss.
All right, so what do we want to watch first? Municipal Government 101 or Malcolm X?
Sorry, send my love.
Municipal government.
The-
Cause, well, yeah,
Hi,
well,
you can hear me?
there's really
She's
no
watching.
great order.
I know, right?
Good.
So there's 3 videos now. My bad. I'll play this one first. You want to forget the rest.
Brother Johnson was attacked by the police. Yo, the brother was just watching, and the cop came on and said, move on. The brother didn't move quick enough for the old thing. I mean, crap, you breathe like a stuck off. So what you gonna do? You rap a little. He's a Muslim. But you ain't gonna do nothing but make a speech.
Muslims talk a good game, but they never do nothing.
You demand to see Brother Johnson. Listen. What is your name, fellow? I'm worried about what my name is. 2 witnesses saw Brother Johnson brought in here beat up. Nobody saw him brought out. You didn't get some? Outside. I suggest you look outside that window.
Looks like a green goblin.
Yes, we intend to see Brother Johnson.
Get an ambulance.
Remember what I told you, how the cello? That's how the cello is.
But break it up. You got what you wanted.
Nah, I'm not satisfied. To the hospital.
All right, that's enough. I want these people moved out of here.
Could have Islam with disciplined men. They haven't broken any laws. Yeah,
What about them?
that's your headache, Captain. But if Brother Johnson dies, I pity you.
He'll do. Give him the best care we can get. Thank you. Sir. All right, okay. Now let's disperse this mob. That's too much power for one man to have.
Brother Johnson was attacked by the police.
The brother was.
So, we want to talk about that? What we just seen?
Yeah.
We want to talk about it? Let's talk about
That's amazing. Can you imagine the profit with 3,000 more?
it. Right? Can you imagine 3,000 Moors doing that? Can you imagine if the Moors showed up for Sister Sharon like that?
Mm-hmm.
To the Supreme Court and we demanded justice? Just like that?
Remember what I said to you? If that ever happened? Every day.
So,
That's how we show up.
now it's interesting that, a lot of Moors will say, we don't need a military. But when you read the old statements by the prophet, he said, I'm a prophet and a general. So if you're a general, that means you have what? And then the prophet said, this is a divine and national movement, right? So that means it's quote unquote spiritual and physical, right? Now, why is it that every other nation has, a military to protect them, but Moors are saying we don't need it? When the prophet said to take your places amongst the affairs of men. So, what are some of the things that we see in that video?
Men standing on their square.
Also,
They showed up.
Well, obedience. I saw that.
but also,
Yeah, discipline.
Hold on. What do you mean obedience?
Meaning, there was a large number of people, and when he put his hand up, they moved on him down. Like, that's damn near like dance choreography. It takes obedience. Listen.
So you're basically commenting on that fact, like there was the emotional crowd in the back,
Yep.
but then
There was the militant.
there was the militant, obedient,
Soldiers.
higher self, controlling their emotions in the front, and then their leader instructing them what to do. What about that is dangerous? What about that is terrorist?
Nothing.
They do this, the Europeans do the same exact thing.
Yeah.
It's actually considered dishonorable. So
That we don't have a military?
Exactly.
Yeah, it is.
That's why it's.
What if we had a military, right? And at every Grand Sheik's house, every Supreme Grand Sheik's house, every consular in the Moorish American consulate, every Sheik, every Moor operating with an official capacity to help our people, what if they had Moors protecting them? What if Sharon had 20 Moors protecting her house? Because these judges, these politicians have details. They have cops parked on their street, making sure they don't get messed with. Why do we have that?
Because
No, I'm going to answer it. Because people think that we're not on the physical plane, and we could just get stuck in metaphysics and get stuck in the higher self and not actually manifest anything. You can't manifest things on the plane of manifest if you're stuck in the ether plane in your higher self. You're just stuck up there. You can't even see what's in front of you because you're stuck. That's why. Because more things, as soon as you say we need a military for protection, they think violence. What about military for protection? Do you see
For
violence?
non-violence.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
So watching a lot of TV, that's TV does that. You hear
TV
certain
does what?
words- You hear certain words, so TV, the programming, it makes it so us as a bulk, when you hear military and things, we automatically think violence because we watch so much freaking TV. And when you see a military or anything like that, they're always doing something violent.
Hi.
So I'll tell you what I loved about that video. What I loved about that video is that those Moors, even though they thought they were black, they did not leave until they got eyes on the Moor and took care of him. And then, even then, they were like, nope, we're going to the hospital with him. We're going to wait.
Right.
Peacefully. love that.
That's what happened in, I think it was in New York, when happened, the power went out and everything, and all the malls that were in Princeton, and they had no water, no AC, nothing, and it was like, they were suffering and all that, and people were standing square by Bill of Rights to be able to provide anything that they need.
Now, that part is good, right? The Moors can come together.
Yeah.
We're good at that. We march, pray all day. But why is it that we don't come together and then send in our officials to the courtroom to be like, yo, let them free? There's all these people out there, y'all don't want them to come in here. So that's why you're dealing with us. The ones who, right, exact. The ones that know your language, like, we already know this person's our diplomat. We already know we ain't gonna black color. We already know we ain't supposed to be in there. There's 10,000 people outside. What are you gonna do? You know what I'm saying? And that's not a threat. That's just, you're on our land. How much longer do you expect for us to keep being under your thumb?
Right.
And let's look at, Fidel Castro. Just so you know, I'm not speaking violently. I'm just, saying it is what it is. Fidel Castro, right? Was they marching and praying?
No.
No, absolutely.
Was they saying, oh yeah, come to class? Was they doing that? No, they was telling the people, this is what it is. These Europeans are on our land,
Nationalized.
called Cuba. They don't belong here. They're stealing our land, touching our children, treating us like shit.
Everyone who marched and prayed got a holiday. Everyone who actually got close to doing something got killed. We gotta take note of that. Everyone who marched and prayed and led our people to stand up against tyranny through marching and praying and holding their heads down and turning the other cheek, they got a holiday. Everyone else who kept it real got killed. Pay attention.
So anyone else got anything else to add about that video?
Can you write back one more time?
Yeah.
We're gonna play it again. I'm so excited.
So,
At the end of the class, we're gonna watch the whole thing.
the whole movie was
Yeah.
like 3 hours.
Oh, thank you.
They were like, Muslims don't do nothing, y'all just talk. He was like, word?
Just watch, and the cop came on and said, move on. The brother didn't move quick enough for their own thing. I mean, shot you, bleed like a stuck off. So what you gonna do?
Oh yeah, just to add in, when Malcolm was speaking to the Europeans, that's diversity. He didn't have no European attorneys speaking for the Moors.
He's representing.
He was
Moors.
representing them. Free national government.
You rap a little. He's a Muslim. But you ain't gonna do nothing but make a speech.
Muslims talk a good game, but they never do nothing.
We demand to see Brother Johnson.
Yes, sir. What is your name, Father?
I'm worried about what my name is. 2 witnesses saw Brother Johnson brought in here beat up. Nobody saw him brought out.
You didn't hit son? Outside.
I suggest you look outside that window. Yes, we intend to see Brother Johnson.
So he wasn't asking. He said, we intend to see him. We ain't, you have a choice.
We're not going anywhere.
Yeah, and just like the prophet said, just like you said, where there's unity, there is strength.
Well, keep the notion. You gotta take in consideration, they know that that is a police station where there's guns. So those men outside know that they're well prepared to see Brother Johnson.
Yep.
Right.
No matter what.
No matter what. So they've already.
What does the prophet say? Upright, independent, and what?
Fearless.
Fearless.
Right.
Get ambulance. Now!
Like, break it up. You got what you wanted.
No, I'm not satisfied. To the hospital.
All right, that's enough. I want these people moved out of here.
Fruit of Islam or disciplined men that haven't broken any laws. Yeah.
What about them?
That's your head, Captain. But if Brother Johnson died, I pity you.
Hear what he said? He said, get these people out of here. He's like, nah, the Fruit of Islam or disciplined men, they ain't do nothing. Then he said, what about the people in the back? He's like, well, I suggest you show Brother Johnson then. You get what I'm saying? Like, if you don't want them to do something to you, you might want to follow the law.
So look how he's literally keeping the peace for them.
They're protecting everyone.
There's a mob behind the militia.
He's protecting the Europeans.
Yeah, he's protecting the Europeans.
Because the prophet said we are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Who is Allah? Allah is the people. Those people were willing to invoke justice.
So the fruit of the men in front were keeping Allah at bay.
Exactly.
The power of Allah right behind them.
Exactly.
It's powerful. It flies over people's heads.
Right over their face. They stuck in the higher selves. They want to stay at home, do videos, and not be with the people. That's what they want. And then when they do go to the people, oh no, come here, let me just do paperwork and leave me alone. It's BS.
He'll do. Getting the best care we can get. Sure.
All right, okay. Now let's disperse this mob.
And everybody calm down.
That's too much power for one man to have.
Scared. Got the captain scared. Anyone else got any comments on that video? No. Here's another video.
You know the book by S.N. Dam on called Black Nationalism? I know you must.
I was with S.N. in Nigeria.
I wish you could tell me about him. Who is he?
He's Nigerian. At present, he's a professor at Ibadan University.
I didn't know where he was now. I knew he was a scholar.
Yes.
Do you agree with his analysis that the black Muslim religion, Islam in America, has served as a seal device to gratify the American Negroes' aspirations for white middle class values?
No, I don't think.
He takes that view.
Yes, but I don't think that the objective of the American Negro is white middle class values. Because what are white middle class values? And what makes the whites who have these middle class values have those values? Where did they get it? They didn't have these same values, 400 years, 500 years ago. Where did they get their value system that they now have attained to? And my contention is that if you trace it back, it was the people of the East who brought them out of the Dark Ages, who brought about the period of ushered in or initiated the atmosphere that brought into Europe the period known as the Renaissance or the reawakening of Europe. And this reawakening actually involved an era during which the people of Europe who were coming out of the Dark Ages were then adopting the value system of the people in the East, of the Oriental society, many of which they were exposed to for the first time during the Crusades. Well, these were the African, Arab, Asian values. The only section of Europe that had a high value system during the Dark Ages were those on the Iberian Peninsula and the Spanish, Portuguese area, southern France. And that high state of culture existed there because Africans, known as Moors, had come there and brought it.
What do you say?
Moors.
Oh. So all these people say they love so-called Malcolm X. Why are they talking about Moors?
Wait, I didn't hear it.
He's talking about
Moors.
You want me to bring it back? Gotcha. He's talking about these people right here called Moors brought the Europeans out of darkness. And he's saying that those Moors are the reason why these Europeans have values and morals. Morals!
There in southern France. And that high state of culture existed there because Africans, known as Moors, had come there and dwelt there. So, the only section of Europe that had a high value system during the Dark Ages were those on the Iberian Peninsula in the Spanish Portuguese era in southern France. And that high state of culture existed there because Africans, known as Moors, had come there and dwelt there. So,
We're here to go into the United Nations at this point and ask that charges be brought against the United States for.
Hear that? So just so you know a little history about El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, mostly known as Malcolm X, but on his tombstone it says El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, big, and then under that smaller it says Malcolm X. Just so you know. So when he made the Hajj, he ended up getting the support of around 10 to 15 different so-called African leaders. So he got the support of so-called 15 African countries, right? Then he was going to bring the United States to the United Nations and sue them.
Fidel Castro also had a lot to do with that too, because
Yes, he
Fidel
did.
was also reaching out to other African nations and providing them help and trying
There's
to make
actually
them
all pictures
specialized.
with Fidel Castro and Malcolm X in the same room, laughing and talking. Look it up. So, El Hajj Malik El Shabazz was teaching our people that they're not Negro, black, and colored. And there's also pictures of El Hajj Malik when he was known as Malcolm X in front of a chalkboard where it says Negro means necro, which is death, and that means black. That is black. Found out he was a Moor, which is declaring his nationality, was going to bring the Europeans, the United States, European colony, to the United Nations and sue them for genocide as Moors.
Right.
Then
How
they
come
killed
it's
him.
taking so long to make this connection?
oh yeah. The audience will have to be quiet. Yes, as I pointed out when I was during my traveling, that nations look, African nations and Asian nations and Latin American nations look very hypocritical when they stand up in the United Nations condemning the racist practices of South Africa and that which is practiced by Portugal and Angola, and saying nothing in the UN about the racist practices that are manifest every day against Negroes in this society. Even in South Africa, those Africans aren't faced with bayonets and aren't faced with police dogs. I would be not a man. If I was in a position to bring it in front of the United Nations and didn't do so, I wouldn't be a man.
Malcolm, do you intend to lead the charges in the United Nations?
Well, I find that
Calling them
to
out.
say you're going to lead
Shots fired.
something creates a lot of hostility, division, jealousy, and envy. I hope to work with any group of leaders or any group of organizations to do whatever is necessary to see that this problem is brought before the United Nations.
Have you had any commitments from any nations in Africa to support
I would rather not say at this time. But one thing I found.
That was a yes. He said, do you have any support from any of the nations in Africa?
Right. They don't need to know. It's not their business. It's not their affairs, so they don't need to know.
Exactly. That's not their affairs. That's our nation's affairs. So what do you need to know about that for?
To steal it.
Counterintelligence.
In my travels, all of them look upon us as their long lost brother.
You realize the implication is that you have had such commitments, you say.
This is your interpretation. Of one thing that I found in all of my travels was that all of the Africans, not only Africans, but the Asians and the Muslims, look upon us as their long lost brothers. And America had actually tricked many of them into a hands-off policy by giving them the impression that she was honestly trying to do something to solve the problem. My argument over there was designed to prove that it is impossible for the United States government to solve the race problem. It's impossible.
Things that will help you fight for freedom. Nationalism is the wave of the present and the future. It is nationalism that's bringing freedom to oppressed people all over the world. It was nationalism that brought freedom to the Algerians. It was nationalism that brought freedom to the Nigerians and to the Ghanaians. It was nationalism that brought freedom to the people of Uganda and Tanganyika and Sudan and Somaliland.
Come on again.
The Africans didn't get it by sitting here. They didn't get it by wading in. They didn't get it by singing "We Shall Overcome." They got it through nationalism. And you and I will get it through nationalism. What is it? What is it that makes it difficult for the philosophy of nationalism to spread among the so-called Negroes? Number one, they think they have a stake in America. They think they have an investment in this country, which we do. They wouldn't be slaves no more. They broke from the sky, and every day would be Sunday. That's a shame. And it is that 310 years of slave labor that went in, that was mine and your contribution into this particular economy and political system. They can give us the back pay. Let's join in. If this is what the Negro wants, let's join him. Let's show him how to struggle. Let's show him how to fight. Let's show him how to bring about a real revolution. Let's make him stop jiving. You don't need a debate. You don't need a filibuster. You need some action.
You want to talk about that?
Nationalism.
All right, that's pretty self-explanatory. Now this one's fire. This one's 52 minutes. Well, we're not going to play all 52 of those.
Come on.
We're going to do 10, and then we'll go to the.
Everybody likes video day.
Actually, let me wrap it up with Malcolm again. I'll play this video. Prophet said, I'm going to leave these Europeans here long enough. You learn how to run government. And they put this video together. So let's learn how to run government.
Hey there. I sure am glad to see you because I need some help. You see, my family and I live in a community right here in Florida where there's sunshine all the time. Well, unless there's a hurricane, of course. Or one of those 1 hour afternoon rainstorms. Anyway, my neighbors are real friendly and we like to help each other out.
Hi, Bob. Need some help?
Yes, I do. One day, we decided we wanted a community park. It would have a playground, and a baseball field, and a soccer field, and walking trails, and one of those big water fountains you can run in and out of and get wet. We wanted everything you could think of.
Who's gonna mow the grass?
What about lights for night games?
What about maintenance?
Where's the water coming from for the fountain?
So, you see, we could really use some help in figuring out how to do this.
Hey, why don't you form a municipality?
A what?
You know, a city, a town, a village. They all mean the same thing in Florida. A municipality. It's a community.
Did you notice the more came in?
Really.
Did you notice the more came in to educate him?
That's run by the people who live there, kind of like a business. In fact, municipalities are actually corporations with very specific powers.
Really? So, how would it work?
Well, let's say a group of neighbors, like yours, for example, all decide they want more services than they have now. You know, like a shared water system instead of each person having their own well, and a central sewer system instead of each person having a septic tank, and a fire truck with firemen, of course, in case someone's house catches on fire, and police officers to protect everyone.
Whoa, who's gonna pay for all of that? And who's in charge?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. Who's in charge here?
When you form a municipality, you elect a handful of people to be city officials, sometimes as little as 3, but usually 5 or 7. It's best to have an odd number in case they vote on something and need a tiebreaker. The city officials are called commissioners or council members, and the leader of the group is usually called the mayor, but not always. The residents of a city then decide which services they want and write it all down in their charter.
A charter?
Yep, a city's charter is kind of like its constitution, a social contract of sorts that is adopted by the people it governs. Every city in Florida has one, and it can only be changed by the residents, not the elected officials.
Thank you for the charter.
But wait, I'd like to change something.
Sorry, you can't do that. Only the people can do that. See ya.
Okay, but you still didn't tell me how it all gets paid for.
Yes, that's where property taxes and user fees come in.
Property taxes? User fees?
That's what homeowners and businesses pay based on the value of the actual property they own. It's based on a thing called the millage rate.
Millage rate?
Yeah, I know. It's a funny word. It's actually Latin, and it means thousand.
Not a million?
No, I know that mill sounds more like million, but it means thousand. Anyway, when it comes to property taxes, 1 mil is 0.001 or 1/1000. So if a property is valued at 100,000 and you multiply it by 0.001, the amount of the property tax would be
10?
Nope.
1,000?
Try again. Come on, use those math skills. You can do it.
100?
Right.
Yes.
Sure you did. Before a millage rate can be set, the people running the city need to know a few things first, like how many residents live inside the municipal boundary. You probably call it the city limit. How many people receive services? How much do the services actually cost? What about city employees? You then take all of these numbers divided by the total value of all the properties.
You're doing math.
I know, but we need to know these things so everyone pays their fair share for all the city provides.
I guess I should have paid more attention in math class. Okay, that's what property taxes and user fees are for. Got it.
Right. And they pay for all sorts of services that enhance our quality of life.
Like parks and rec.
Right. And solid waste and garbage disposal.
And water. And sewage.
There you go. How about libraries? That's where I learned all this stuff.
And cemeteries. And urban planning and economic development.
You got it. And others to keep the public safe, like
the police department.
Yes, the fire department.
Building inspection.
And the people you call when a wild alligator climbs a fence into your yard.
Whoa, what?
You know, animal control.
Oh, right.
And transportation, airports, buses, road maintenance, bicycle paths, sidewalks.
Wow, I guess cities really do provide a lot of services. But again, who's in charge of it all?
It depends. Some cities choose the mayor-council form of government, and some choose the council-manager form.
Wow, I thought this was going to be easy.
It's not that hard. In a mayor-council form of government, you can either have a strong mayor or a weak mayor.
Strong? You mean like weightlifter strong? What does that have to do with government?
I'm not talking about personalities or physique. I'm referring to political power. A strong mayor has lots of responsibilities and can make some important decisions on his own. A weak mayor has the same power and responsibilities as the other council members. In this case, the mayor just runs the meetings. In a council manager form, however, the elected officials are more like a board of directors, and they hire a CEO to run things at the city. That's called the city manager. There are other forms too, but these are the main ones.
Well, which one is the best?
That's a great question, but it's hard to answer.
I thought you said this was going to be easy.
Listen, it all comes back to what do the people want? Do they want one person in charge or several? Do they want those in charge to be elected or just take direction from electeds? All these questions are answered by the people of a given community based on their needs.
How do you know what kind of city you live in?
Remember the charter? It holds lots of answers.
Okay, Mrs. Smarty Pants. You didn't talk about the military. Who's in charge of that?
That's the federal government. In the United States, we have several layers of government that do different things. We have the federal government. That's the big one, Washington, D.C. And it has 3 branches of government. The executive branch, that's the president. the legislative branch, Congress, and the judicial branch, Supreme Court. Those three branches affect laws governing the whole country. Then there are 50 states, and each one has at least 3 branches of government, just like the federal government. In Florida, the executive branch is the governor's office. The legislative branch is the state legislature in Tallahassee, and the judicial branch is the state Supreme Court. Then there are counties. In Florida, counties are basically tiny states with yet another layer of government. There are 67 of those. Did you know no matter where you go in the state, you're always in a county? Then there's school districts and water management districts and fire districts and hundreds more special districts.
So municipal government is where people that live in a community make decisions for just the people in that community.
Right. It's called home rule. The people of Florida granted cities and counties the right to make their own decisions about their own services in their own communities right at home, without having to go to Tallahassee or Washington, D.C. to get approval, with some exceptions.
I see. Okay, so what happens if some people who live in a community don't agree? Like, let's say that some people want a pool in the park and other people want a baseball field with lights, but there's only enough money in the budget to do one thing or the other. Do they go to the state legislature?
Nope. Those decisions are made right at home by the municipal or county government. To solve that problem, one option would be to increase the millage rate. Remember millage rate? Which would raise taxes to pay for both. But if nobody wants to pay more taxes, what will probably happen is the city officials will hold a public meeting where everyone is invited. That's the best part about local government. You get to have a voice in what happens. You can text, email, call, or even better, show up and speak. Once all the positions are heard, the city officials will take a vote and then tell city staff what to do based on the outcome.
But what if you don't like the decision that was made?
Well, you might not always get what you want, but if you don't like it, you can always move to another town, protest, or run for office.
You know, it seems to me that local government affects our communities much more than any other layer of government.
Absolutely. It's the government closest and most responsive to the people. We need local government. Elected officials and the staff they employ are the best equipped to respond to and make decisions about the local communities they serve. They know that what works in Miami or Tampa may not work in Live Oak or Chattahoochee, and that's okay. Florida has over 400 cities, and they are all different, with different people, with different needs, with different cool things about them.
I like that about our state. It's filled with diversity.
I like it too.
So remember that park that my neighbors and I wanted to build?
I want a volleyball court. What about a rock wall? I want a climbing rock wall.
How about a disc golf course?
What? A disc golf course? Why not? I don't think so.
Now that's a terrible idea.
Yeah, who's gonna pay for that?
What about another bathroom? We could use another bathroom.
Everyone, stop fighting. Let's take this to City Hall.
And that is city government in a nutshell.
Now, let's talk about that. We have to talk about that. Let's just talk about how the fact is, or the fact of the matter is, the people have to what?
Participate.
Participate. Yeah. That's why the prophet said, just because you're born here, I'll make you a citizen.
Right.
You have to actually participate in your own free national government. That's what makes you a citizen. So, what are some of the things that we learned in that video? I know somebody learned something.
Yep.
There was a
power
lot
that
of
we have as individuals once we do participate.
You and the news, say it again?
We have a lot of power as individuals once we educate ourselves on this and participate. We can get a lot of stuff done.
That most of it that you can see is pretty much all made up based off what people agree on.
Yeah.
So before it existed, this didn't exist one day, the moment we all come together and say,
Yes.
this is what it's gonna be.
Exactly.
And then now that something's created.
Marcus Garvey said, I'm going to paraphrase. He said, you can't have government without the people. The people come first. And the government is the helm by which the people guide their destiny via their free will. That's how that works. So the second we as a people say, all right, we need to go speak to the city hall officials to let them know that we're here, and let them know about their obligations towards us as a people, according to the rights of indigenous people, that Barack Hussein Obama signed when he was in office, which they're obligated to, which our will and our sheer numbers makes them obligated to it, regardless if the document was signed or not. That's how things begin to change. By us making it happen. In the Holy Quran that the Prophet prepared for us, the chapter about how Jesus was resurrected, he basically said that when our will matches the will of Allah, the resurrection is possible. Meaning, if our will matches the will of Allah, that means we are Allah. That means our will is what makes these things happen. So if we don't will it, if we only want to come to class on Saturdays and only be Moors in front of the camera, then we ain't going nowhere. Is that comprehended?
We can, not only if we aren't ready to approach city government just yet, we can still go and sit in on the town meetings and find out what's happening in our backyards. Because the reason why we don't know is because we don't show up. So these Europeans who aren't representing us, they're representing them, show up and they're like, well, we want this. And nobody from our group or from our, right, uncontested, we're not representing ourselves. So we're just getting screwed.
We're getting exactly what we put in.
Yeah.
Just like they were saying, if you want the building, you raise the taxes. If the people don't want to pay the taxes, then they don't get the thing. Right. One time I went to the state house, and Gino Raimondo was doing a speech about bees. Why? Because there was about 100 Europeans in there with bee stations all over the place talking about farming bees. Mm-hmm. Which the will of the people commanded that the governor come out and do a quick speech and say, yeah, local bee farmers. Mm-hmm. So how about the Moors say, hey, since you're European on our land, come on and have a chat with us. Mm-hmm. We have a few things to talk about. Mm-hmm. Why do your policy forces keep calling us sovereign citizens when this is our land? What's up with that? Mm-hmm. Why do you keep pulling us over when this is our land? What's up with that? Do you want to get sued? Like, what's up?
And that's why they have to be able to put something for us in their charter.
Well, no, they don't. So they're obligated to us just for the fact that this is our land.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That charter doesn't really mean anything. This is our land, so they have to speak to us. Like if we go to China, there's nothing in that charter that says they got to speak to us. Mm-hmm. That's their land, so we have no choice but to speak to them. You know what I'm saying? And then when you read again the rights of indigenous people, it says states, which a city is a municipal government, to help the state. So it's one and the same. Because the state is a group of people, the city is a group of people. States are obligated to consult and cooperate with indigenous people, especially with reference to any legislation that may affect them, positive or negative. So if we're not there and say, hey, you can't do that, guess what they're going to do? That.
So it all comes down to the people.
Yeah. 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 But it's more than just showing up. It's deciding, okay, do we want a mayor, city council thing, or the strong mayor, weak mayor? What do we want? And then what is that elected official going to speak about once they're in that office? You know what I'm saying? I already wrote some things that we talked about. Several pages.
27.
So anyone else have any other comments on that video?
We talk about the paper. Sorry.
What paper? The newspaper? You want to talk about that?
What do you mean?
I have an idea.
I wrote a newspaper. It's on Rise and Moors Under Services, and its purpose is to combat the lies that they tell about us and set the record straight as far as law and how they're perceiving us to be monsters or criminals.
We should amplify that paper tenfold and make it very powerful. Like I would literally devote my time to stand outside until I have to go to, even if I go to the kiosk, and I'll hand that paper.
Well, there was community outreach last Saturday, and then we're planning to get the projects
Today.
You want to do that today?
Yeah. It's
Well,
9:61.
Izzy and I have some off-camera information.
Yeah.
Strategies and toys.
Yeah. Also, in any event, once we get in City Hall, that's going to be cameras out.
Yeah.
You know, when it's appropriate.
Yeah.
To show like, we ain't no terrorists, we ain't no violent, disrespecting law stuff, this is what we're about.
And I want to bring this to everyone's perspective. Like, just know this. And we was building on it on the way down in the car, and that's why I was thinking about like how powerful what you're doing is right now for us. You know, I think what the prophet said, change the people, change the narrative, right?
Educated themselves.
Through my history of dealing with them, they seem to know everything about us, and we don't know anything about them.
Mm-hmm.
A group of friends of mine I used to be best friends with, even we kicked off in an argument one time over the phone about policy enforcers that I no longer talk to those gentlemen because they were trying to convince me to believe their mindset where they were telling me that basically that policy enforcers are psychic.
Mm.
So I abandoned that shit.
What?
I headed to the
I'm
hills.
so confused.
Oh, they was fillery.
Fear is a very powerful thing. You gotta understand when people fear for their lives, they will make their minds will tell them false things, and it'll become true to them.
Mhm.
There's actually an Asian doctor who studies that.
Mhm.
You can lie to yourself so much till it becomes true.
Mhm.
So I abandoned shit with that. That was a whole trying to convince me that psychic is a doctor. I might know some things, but I'm not on.
That's
I'm not on
insane.
So
Psychic.
That's crazy.
I just noticed that they know a lot about us. And it's not a lot of truth. They just know a lot of data.
But
pretty
that
much.
they collect.
What the numbers
Yeah.
collect.
They collect.
They collect from these numbers that we tend to want to punch in to act like they're giving us something.
Mhm.
When we punch these numbers in. You know what I'm saying? So then you find yourself in the paper. When you do things individually, you find yourself in their paper, distributed to their people. Like, you know, when everyone who ever had a paper out, a little European kid or how little Moorish children ride around in the morning and they toss the paper to the doors and those things are weapons. That's mass destruction. Trust me. Because we don't be reading them. We don't really be reading them. We use them to swat flies, whatever, we get a hold of it, toss it, or hand it to someone else who wants to.
The dog's toilet.
Never, right. Beat the dog's toilet.
In the mirror.
If you notice,
Lately I've been picking them things up. I'm kind of reading them a couple of years now. And some of the things that be wild, like, as someone who's not into history, even into reading it, you would discard it because it's like, what are these people talking about? They're about drugs. When you get into who you are as a person and stuff, some of the things in these little, what do you call it now? Lowell Suns or what are the regular pamphlets?
Yeah.
Toss on your thing, the Boston Globe or the New York Times type stuff. It relates to you now that you have a nationality. Now it's like, oh, wait a minute. This sounds like it has something to do with me now that I know who I am. Like, I can read this now. It kind of makes sense. And you're like, oh, wait, no. It's my people and this is the neighborhood. This is like right surrounding me, right under my feet. So they get to, it depends who's reading the word. And if they're wording it and the world around us is moving along while they're wording it and we're not checking the specs, they get to design our work. It's like Sims. If you ever sat down and played Sims, see what I'm saying? No one in the program is going to come against you and be like, hey, you shouldn't put this building here. See what I'm saying? It's what we're in this program now. So I was looking at the narrative because the other day, like when I got pulled over and it was like a small, no emergency, no nothing. You know what I'm saying? We're studying their codes up there, down there, and in order for them to throw the lights on, it has to be an emergency. But the lights have to follow with the siren. Have to, according to their codes and regulations.
They don't be turning the siren on.
Thank you.
They just put the lights on.
Thank you. Thank you. How many people know that? That the lights have to follow with the siren.
It's supposed to be an
It must be an
Emergency.
emergency. For the lights to even go on.
Mhm.
So that means when you traveling and
What's
the lights
the
come on
emergency?
behind you, and you're looking around, what's going on? Your heart's already pounding, no siren, no let pull up, no emergency. So we gotta know to calm down. There's no emergency, nothing's going wrong. We automatically panic and let them throw us in the corner, and then they start on us. But I got pulled over and I was in the paper like within days, 3 days, 72 hours, I was in the paper. Wilding out. Reached for a machete, did this, that, and the third, did it in the low sun. Small little section down in the corner, but you know these so-called Jewish people, they sit down in their Starbucks and they read the whole
Yeah.
thing.
If you look at their recycling too, it's stock full of papers.
Full of it. So they know what's going on in the community. So they do their statistics and their demographics. And when a lot of us in this room fit these statistics they put up, because none of us are checking the specs. So when in the papers it's full of black man this, black man that, black man this, black, and they put us in that color category, we all fit the description. I don't know if anybody's ever been pulled up on by them and just like, oh, you fit the description. I used to live in New York. That happens a lot. So that's what's going on. And the ones who are helping to fuel the narrative are the ones who they would like to present themselves as your outstanding citizens, taxpayers, the ones who are actually doing something and working hard to make sure that we can. That's what's going on. That battle in itself is serious. It's serious. The pen being mightier than the sword.
It's the day after Sharon was arrested, there was a paper out.
And you should, bro, if I didn't know the family, I'm like, oh my God.
She's crazy.
This lady is a danger to the society. If I didn't know her, I've met Sharon. You kidding me? The children, that woman is outstanding. And then you see these other Moors who jump on the thing to help butcher your. That's a whole rabbit hole for itself.
So since we're speaking on that, the whole Moors come up here on camera, please.
That's a whole other rabbit hole for itself. We definitely now we gotta, because look at this. Everyone jumped on the European narrative about how bad Sharon is, right? But when they line up for Foot Locker Jordans, nobody knows that Jordan invests $20 million a year in the prisons that we're full of. A lot of people don't know that. When you running around with J's on your feet, know that that man puts 20 million of those notes into the same jail that we full of. Yearly, contractually.
So I wanted to put on the record with other people here to challenge what I'm saying. The Europeans basically were saying that Moors we're sovereign citizens and we're dangerous and we're anti-government and we're violent and we'll do anything at all costs, whatever. That's all a lie. And all of us here will say that our prophet, Nabu Ali, told us to have respect for law, order, and governmental principles. He also instructed us to enforce the Constitution for the United States of America. So we're to tell you that we're not violent. We don't want to overthrow any government. We're here to enforce the Constitution and enforce peace. Anyone else want to add anything?
We're not sovereign citizens.
Oh yeah, we're not sovereign citizens. We're Moorish American nationals. Us being part of a nation is what grants us sovereignty. Sovereignty doesn't exist on its own.
I was just saying we don't promote oxymorons. Sovereign citizen and oxymoron.
Yeah.
A noun next to a noun, if you study syntax, is a no-no.
Additionally, the very word Islam means peace. So we can't be for peace and violence. What we are for is protecting our peace. That's what we're for. Just like our prophet said, we're for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when those principles are violated, justice wants to take its course. So again, we're not anti-government at all. In fact, we're trying to raise our own free national government. So let's put all that BS to the side.
Let's have transparency.
Yeah.
All across the board, because let me finish my point. They know so much about us, but we don't know nothing about them. You see what I'm saying? And transparency should be all across the table. They're here with us, right? We can already see that no one's gonna get up and do what what was displayed in the movie with Malcolm X. We can see that we're a long way from that with all just the minor little bickering. You see what I'm saying? But when it comes to transparency, I think that's like up there with one of the top weapons we should have. Let's know who we're dealing with. Let's not just take it for face value. All right, we can think we can trust this person. No, because a lot of us don't know that these governors and senators and these people who are conducting these businesses and have these private things that allow policy enforcers to do what they're doing to us, we're partying and drinking and laughing up with their children. Their children are in the streets. The same thing, but they're just their route is curved. Yeah, they get away when they go in. The right words are said, the right people showed up, the right color ties are worn, and things disappear. But we don't have that advantage on this chessboard.
Let's talk about the Londonderry police policy enforcer.
Londonderry police just killed a lady right down in New Hampshire 2 weeks ago, right close to us. No, I'm
She was
assuming
not a march, but she was a human.
Assuming not.
Yeah,
She
you
was
know,
regardless, so-
and what type of charges do they charge?
he got no manslaughter.
Felony. They didn't have no.
So it's a high felony and on administrative leave. So that's why I'm saying,
So
let's
based
get
on
to
that-
know these people.
Drunk driving.
He was
Because,
drunk driving.
yeah, he's drunk driving. Drunk driving.
He was drunk.
Straight out plastered. Plastered, and he, no manslaughter, just a high felony. Administrative leave means he's still being paid. So he's chilling.
If any one of us got a DUI, you'd most likely lose your job.
And know this, his community around him, just like they did for the other trooper who went on a murdering spree in mass, and they rallied money together. His community protected him, rallied money together for them to protect him, just like we would be here and we would protect this temple. We would come give the notes to make sure the temple needs whatever paint on the walls, whatever carpeting on the floor, whatever cameras to keep us secure, just like that. That's what they're doing. So we need this kind of transparency all across the board where we got to know these people, because at the end of the day, we're dishing out the notes. Whether we say, oh, support black business, support black this, I get it, trust me. Well, I'm not knocking anything, I get it. But transparency would help us better understand. You see what I'm saying? All these black businesses, black everything, and because we're already wrapped up in commerce. Some of us are taking our stance against commerce because they're dragging us into international commerce waters without our knowledge, consent, and everything, right? Due to the dead entity attached to us. So transparency, I think, will even the playing, kind of level out the playing field a little bit.
Now we can
That's
be
why
transparent
and
in
that's
City Hall.
exactly. And I think the paper will help raise the awareness level a little bit.
Yeah.
Because if we're putting out this regular public information, just like how they're entitled to deface us in their little low sons and little articles, we have the same rights. We can just write, and we're not defacing anyone. We're just writing the truth.
Yeah, show the world what the
And
truth
what they're
is.
writing is not the truth most of the time.
It isn't the truth any of the time.
It's slander.
Any of the time is what they're writing.
95%.
It is.
And I think this is what the prophet wants this.
He said our press is our most powerful weapon.
Yes.
And then Malcolm X just said how the United States is showing the other nations that they're doing their best to help us out.
Yes.
But when he went there, he was saying, no, they're not. We need to do the same thing. And this is the beginning stages of us doing that. These Europeans are treating us like shit.
Like, it's,
For the record.
it's unbelievable. And even when, because you can climb that tax bracket and this, that, and the third, but emotions are there wherever you go. And we are very, I've heard them say it before, we are high sensitive beings. Like, you know, when we walk in a room, we can sense when the vibe's moving. Like, oh, it's my kid.
Yeah.
We're high sensitive when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Us, like, you know, something come in the room, it's like, oh, we feel it. What's going on?
Yeah.
That's us. We're tuned in high. So I lost my train of thought, but we need to transparency. I just believe
We need to
that.
be in City Hall.
Yeah.
All right, so let's wrap it up with another El Haj video.
Yeah. Peace as well.
I gotta do the lights. Oh, my bad. I got something to do.
Not yet. All right.
Oh yeah, before I do that, anything else on the Municipal Government 101?
I love that video.
Yeah.
I like
Please, if you have children, show this to them.
Yes.
I like how they didn't mention the districts can overlap though, like how they do.
The county?
Well, not kind of. I was gonna say like how they did districts, but then they didn't take it back out one step further when they talk about social security districts.
Oh,
they didn't talk about that, how
Of course
they use
not.
that to set up, you know, their federal government
Yeah, of course
across
not.
everything.
They will never do that. Now, this video, again, it's 52 minutes, but I'm not gonna play all 52 of those minutes.
Mr. Moderator, Reverend Clee, brothers and sisters, and friends, and I see some enemies. In fact, I think we'd be fooling ourselves if we had an audience this large and didn't realize that there were some enemies present. This afternoon, we want to talk about the ballot or the bullet. The ballot or the bullet explains itself. But before we get into it, since this is the year of the ballot or the bullet, I would like to clarify some things that refer to me personally concerning my own personal position. I'm still a Muslim. That is, my religion is still Islam. My religion is still Islam. I still credit Mr. Muhammad for what I know and what I am. He's the one who opened my eyes. At present, I'm the minister of the newly founded Muslim Mosque Incorporated, which has its offices in the Teresa Hotel, right in the heart of Harlem. That's the Black Belt in New York City. And when we realize that Adam Clayton Powell is a Christian minister, he has Abyssinia Baptist Church, but at the same time he's more famous for his political struggling. And Dr. King is a Christian minister from Atlanta, Georgia, but he's become more famous for being involved in the civil rights struggle. There's another in New York, Reverend Galamison. I don't know if you've heard of him out here. He's a Christian minister from Brooklyn, but has become famous for his fight against the segregated school system in Brooklyn. Reverend Cleave, right here, is a Christian minister here in Detroit. He's the head of the Freedom Now Party. All of these are Christian ministers. All of these are Christian ministers, but they don't come to us as Christian ministers. They come to us as fighters in some other category. I'm a Muslim minister. The same as they are Christian ministers, I'm a Muslim minister. And I don't believe in fighting today in any one front, but on all fronts. In fact, I'm a black nationalist freedom fighter. Islam is my religion, but I believe my religion is my personal business. It governs my personal life, my personal morals, and my religious philosophy is personal between me and the God in whom I believe, just as the religious philosophy of these others is between them and the God in whom they believe. And this is best this way. Were we to come out here discussing religion, we'd have too many differences from the outstart, and we could never get together. So today, though Islam is my religious philosophy, my political, economic, and social philosophy is black nationalism. You and I... As I say, if we bring up religion, we'll have differences, we'll have arguments, we'll never be able to get together. But if we keep our religion at home, keep our religion in the closet, keep our religion between ourselves and our God, but when we come out here, we have a fight that's common to all of us against the enemy who is common to all of us. The political philosophy of black nationalism only means that the black man should control the politics and the politicians in his own community. The time when white people can come in our community and get us to vote for them so that they can be our political leaders and tell us what to do and what not to do is long gone. Token, the time when that same white man, knowing that your eyes are too far open, can send another Negro into the community, get you and me to support him so he can use him to lead us astray, those days are long gone. live in a black community, and that's where we're going to live. Because as soon as you move into one of their, as soon as you move out of the black community into their community, it's mixed for a period of time, but they're gone, and you're right there all by yourself. We must understand the politics of our community. And we must know what politics is supposed to produce. We must know what politics play in our lives. And until we become politically mature, we will always be misled, led astray, or deceived or maneuvered into supporting someone politically who doesn't have the good of our community at heart. So the political philosophy of black nationalism only means that we will have to carry on a political program of re-education to open our people's eyes, make us become more politically conscious, politically mature. And then we will, whenever we get ready to cast our ballot, that ballot will be cast for a man of the community who has the good of the community at heart.
Didn't the prophet say God shows us to become better citizens, right? And cast a free national ballot in the state in which we live. The state is a group of people, our community. Isn't that what the prophet said? Isn't Malcolm teaching exactly what the prophet taught?
Yeah. Islam. Does it sound like to me?
The economic philosophy of black nationalism only means that we should own the white man is too intelligent to let someone else come and gain control of the economy of his community. But you will let anybody come in and control the economy of your community. Control the housing, control the education, control the jobs, control the businesses under the pretext that you want to integrate. No, you're out of your mind. The economic philosophy of black nationalism only means so we're trapped. But the political and economic philosophy of black nationalism, the economic philosophy of black nationalism shows our people the importance of setting up these little stores and developing them and expanding them into larger operations. Woolworth didn't start out big like they are today. They started out with a dime store and expanded and expanded and expanded until today they're all over the country and all over the world, and they're getting some of everybody's money. Now, this is what you and I in General Motors, the same way it didn't start out like this.
It started out just a little rat race type operation. And it expanded until today it's where it is right now. And you and I have to make a start. And the best place to start is right in the community where we live.
Please watch the rest of this on your own. It's called The Ballot or the Bullet by Malcolm X. Let's have an open discussion on that now. What do we learn?
We don't know what a community is.
Okay, so what is a community to you?
A bunch of people that look like myself who are going to make sure we have our best interests together. Keeping our finances, as I said, not only finances and political philosophies the same, but making sure that when I spend $1 of my hard-earned money, I spend it at, one of your businesses, and you spend it at her business, and she spends back at my business. So before that money even leaves the community, we've taken care of our own and used that money to re-educate our children and build up stores and schools and things that we need, so we don't have to submit our authority and go outside of our state or nation or communities. But I feel like we don't have communities. Well, like you said, you out of the black communities and go live in these white communities, thinking you've moved up somewhere, but we're not looking out for ourselves. If one person gets out, what about everybody else? So it doesn't make no sense for people just to get up and run out.
Well, that's why we plan to go to the projects and hand out some nationality documents. Here's some flyers.
That's the best place to start.
Yeah.
Anyone else have? Sorry, I don't want to get off topic. I want to stay on the community thing. I was just throwing that out there. Anyone else have anything else about that? About the video? Unless you have more, of course.
Yeah, to be honest, like what we have to do is like going back into the news. Like now we with the newspaper, we could be able to educate our community to be able to expand the law, and then educate themselves the right way instead of just make perceptions and a fiction that is not reality. Whatever these Europeans are doing to us, to be able to make believe that it's not true facts, that's real lawful what they're doing. They're just running into policies and protocols and procedures and to become reality and fact that is not.
Yeah. So speaking on that.
You want to talk about yesterday?
Actually, but before that, actually, yes, go ahead.
To speak on that yesterday, I won't give all the details because the Moore's not here, but someone was getting trouble from policy enforcers, and me and Ellie went down to help, and his issue was license, registration, identification. And we're giving him his own Rhode Island State General Law, and he just strucks over it. And he kept going back to, well, in the state of Rhode Island, no, I'm giving you your law that states this is fine. This is legal. And he's saying, well, you have to follow the laws. I'm giving you the law. But they're so one-track mind that they can't even, they can't think.
Hold on. Who did he tell you to speak to? Because
so
she showed her Moorish ID and you showed your Moorish ID. What did he say?
So I told him, for future reference, if you see somebody with this, know that we're applying Rhode Island General Law, Title 31. So from here on out, this is how it's going to be. So I said, in order for us to be proactive and not reactive and have better lines of communication, who should I speak to so that you guys can change your protocol or manuals on how to deal with this situation, because you're not really solving the issue.
Your policy into the charter pretty much legal.
So he suggested that we speak to the city solicitor and the general attorney.
So City Hall. Because they're not used to the indigenous people saying, well, there's an issue of diversity here, which Gina Raimondo issued, who's the governor of Rhode Island, issued an executive order promoting diversity. And in your Rhode Island general laws, chapter 31, it talks about non-residents who are 18 years or older whose home state or country does not require licenses don't have to have a license.
Mhm.
So it's incumbent upon us to go to City Hall and say, hey, tell the Providence Police Department that we'll be traveling here, enforcing your laws that we don't need to have a license. Instead of us dealing with these individuals as individuals, why don't we just come together and say, okay, we're going to go to City Hall and have a sit down with the mayor.
Can I also add, it was very helpful and important that Moore, because of her studies, she already had spoke to that. We didn't use exactly the same words, but she already spoke to that. And then when we came in, he was looking for relief to get her under jurisdiction, but we came in saying the same thing because we all studied.
Oh, can you also bring up how you approached the situation?
Yeah, so she had told them, I'm gonna call for help. And it was I'll say to move a vehicle. I'm gonna call for help. So he was already aware that there was gonna be more parties coming. And then when we got there, I called out to them from a distance, so not to alarm them. And I, introduced myself. I'm here to help her. We have an issue. How can I help? So it was very cordial. It was non-threatening, non-aggressive.
So instead of
Yeah.
going directly to him and sneaking up on him, you said,
Yeah, because their
"Hey,
backs
I'm
were
just here to
turned to
help
us.
with this
Yeah.
situation."
hmm So we from that we got a great response, and it's partially because I'm a female, so that plays a lot into it. We happened to get the right people, so I can't say it's always going to turn out like that, but those things did help.
So now, City Hall. All right, so let's wrap it up for the camera. We can continue to talk, but how long is the camera been running?
We're going on an hour and 30 minutes.
Okay, great. So thank you all for tuning in. Please study the prophets' literature. Don't listen to these dirty COINTELPRO operatives. Research the Library of Congress, LOC.gov, duplication services, and look up any of the documents that you heard me talk about in any other video. So again, it's LOC.gov, duplication services, so you can get the Treaty of Peace and Friendship certified by the Library of Congress. You can get George Washington's letter to the Sultan of Morocco certified by the Library of Congress. You can get the proceedings and debates of the 90th Congress, First Session, Volume 113, Part 12, June 1967, whereas they stated that the 14th Amendment is unconstitutional. So now whenever these so-called black politicians say we teach about the 14th Amendment, there you go. Also look up caselaw.findlaw.com so you can find any federal cases to show you that Moors ain't making this stuff up. And with that, I say peace.